Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Jitsi Community Call. Now, let's start with the team. And, Happy New Year, by the way. I think this is the first time in a while that we've reconvened. We didn't do the last time because it was during the holiday vacations. So I'm happy to see you all again. As an update, I'm going to start with the fact that for those who don't know, this team now offers a Gte Hosting Service called Jitsi as a service. And I'm going to paste the link here. 8x8.vc, jazz.jaas, Jitsi as a service, jas.8x8.vc. And this is, check it out. We think it's in a good shape. If you want to develop applications that are based on Jitsi with the Jitsi APIs and the quick integrations, but without actually having to host it, you can use Jitsi as a service. Now, that said, I'm going to open the microphone to the team and see if anyone wants to share any updates.
I made a post on the community, but I'll say here, I did this last month. I'm planning on phasing out the old JSON-based config for Jibri. No strict timeline on that yet. It's not imminent or anything. More announcements will be made, but it's coming.
Thank you, Brian. Damien, I think you had something to share as well, right? You're preparing the new stable packages?
Yeah, the new stable packages are already in testing. The candidates for the stable release are in testing repo, so we will be releasing those the following days, I hope. So that's that.
That's great. Hristo, would you like to talk a little bit about reactification and the current state?
Yeah, sure. So basically, I think last week I opened a PR which completes our, let's say, stage 2 of the rectification for the film strip, which means that basically we now have a thumbnail component which renders at this point everything, almost everything, let's say, that appears in the thumbnail, or the content of the thumbnail. So this component is still rendered by the legacy code, the small video class, the remote video, local video classes. And right now I'm working on actually moving this thumbnail component to be rendered by the film strip component, which is going to be the final stage of the rectification. Hopefully by the next call, we are gonna be able to have that either as a PR or in master. So I think that's all for me. Yeah.
Thank you, Hristo. Would anyone else like to share any updates?
I have one. We are going forward with phasing out Gcofo's XMPP component connection. So that is
you're coming on. You're coming out somewhat silent, Boris. If you
is it better like this?
Yes.
Okay. We are phasing out Gcofo's XMPP component connection and replacing it with the existing user connection. So right now this is used for authentication and for the initial conference request. For Debian installations, we are simply replacing the Prosody external component with a proxy. So it should be transparent. It is transparent for Jitsi Meet clients, and it should also be transparent for any other clients using the authentication API. Following that, we are going to remove the component code from Gcofo, which means that this is going to be, this meaning using the XMPP user connection is going to be the only way to communicate with Gcoffer for those two APIs. Which means that if you're using a server different than Prosody, you will need to update the system. Again, for the Debian installation, it will be completely transparent, but other systems might need updates. That's all.
So how does the client now talk to Gcoffer?
With the Prosody proxy, the client does the exact same thing. It sends the IQ to the same JID to focus that the domain name, and Prosody proxies that to Gcoffer over the client connection.
And that proxy, is it Prosody specific thing, or is it available in XMPP in general?
That's a Prosody specific module.
Okay, thanks.
Will this affect other forms of auth, like the JWT auth?
No.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Boris. Do we have any other updates from the team?
I have an update. I mean, we are trying to wrap up the codec selection work on the client. So now we have the ability to set a preferred codec, and the default will always be VP8. So when you have the preferred codec set to VP9, let's say, for example, then the call starts off with VP9, but then if you have an endpoint that comes in with which doesn't support VP9, then we fall back to VP8, and as soon as the endpoint leaves, then the clients will all go back to VP9. So this is all done. We are about to merge that PR. So yeah, that's the update.
Thank you very much, Jaya. Jonathan, anything you'd like to share?
The VP9, I think we're about ready to land, though there have been some reports in the community with people testing my PR of some issues. So if have been doing any testing of VP9, please let me know so that if there's anything that we need to get resolved, we can get it resolved as quickly as possible. Probably I'll talk on the community or on the pull request would be the best way to communicate about that.
Oh, and Jay, can you please remind everyone where we stand currently on the WebRTC side, on the JavaScript side with VP9?
Yeah, I mean, I just gave the update. So yeah.
Oh, sorry, I tuned out for a second. So if that's what you said, then just...
Yeah, the client-side work is almost all done. So once
I'm sorry. Just...
That's fine. So once Jonathan lands his PR, then yeah, we'll have the full VP9 support.
Including fallback?
Yes.
Fantastic. All right. I think that concludes the update from the team, unless anyone wants to interrupt me in the next 3 seconds. No?
Not a team thing. I did have a question.
I'm going to open the mic in a second.
Awesome. Carry on.
And I opened the mic. Go ahead, Eric.
Thanks. I realize that deployments are very much infrastructure specific, but is there any work or anything coming down the pipe that would help to productize or package up, scale up and scale down, video bridge scale up and scale downs, what with all of the handshakes and the draining of video bridges and so on that go with it?
No, we're not. We've kicked that around. There's no major reason not to do it, but also other than it would require way too much work for us to go and, sanitize the scripts that we have so that they would make sense from a public perspective. So I don't think that would happen anytime soon, unfortunately.
Okay.
Also, when we usually talk about these things, we kind of end up with, well, it would be great if we actually did the work necessary for this to be happening the Kubernetes way. Right. But that too is a rather significant amount of work, and we're currently quite overwhelmed. So in theory, we'd love to one day do the work to make Kubernetes, be the work out of the box with Kubernetes scaling and have whatever is necessary to make that work. But I don't know when that would happen, unfortunately. In the meantime, you could use Jitsi as a service. Just saying.
Nice. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Going once. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. I already wrote it in the chat. Will it be possible to add custom Prosody modules to Jitsi as a service? Because that's really necessary to run my instance.
Yeah. What Jitsi as a service offers is webhooks for a bunch of things. So that's how you would handle something that Prosody does. Do you want to talk a little bit more about your use case?
Okay, I built a module which basically has an event stream. So I get notified if someone joins or leaves a room without being in this room.
Yeah, we have webhooks for that on Jitsi as a service. So we'll receive notifications. You have to register the webhooks and they'll start getting these notifications.
And if the webhook doesn't or is not received by my side,
we keep retrying for 24 hours.
So then I can I also query all rooms and all users which are currently in those rooms?
No, that's not currently something we have because usually when outages happen in webhooks, it's they're usually much lower than 24 hours. So we thought that would be enough. But if you have a strong use case for needing to query, we were trying to make sure that we retain as little data as possible about what happened on your installation. So that's kind of the thinking. We'd rather not store your data and just give it to you immediately when it's available and then forget about it. That was the idea.
Yeah, but Prosody already has the data, so in memory.
No, it has it and then it forgets it. It has it during the call, and then it forgets it. So what you're asking, when you're asking to be able to query, right? That means that we have to store it for a period of time in order to support your queries. We don't want to store your data. We want to forget it as soon as the call is over.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, just a little bit. But I mean that if my server crashes or the connection just interrupts, then I may not receive all hooks.
Well, if it crashes, ideally it should be back up within 24 hours, right?
Yeah, but if I not get the hook from Jitsi as a service that one user joined and one user left, then it's not up. The state is not updated on my side.
No. You will get it as soon as your server comes back. As long as it comes back within 24 hours. Let's say it crashes, it disappears, right? We will keep trying to give you that hook for 24 hours until your server is back.
Okay. Yeah, okay, now I understand it.
And then when it comes back, you will get it. So you will not miss information as long as your outages are less than 24 hours.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
I don't have a question, but I do have something I wanted to report.
Go for it.
Last week, about 12 of us had a Jitsi meeting on this particular server. We went to the same room name, but half of us ended up in one room and the other half ended up in another room, but it was exactly the same room name. Some were using Firefox, some were using Chrome, and some were using the app images.
Yeah, that can happen, especially if you could map the two halves to do different geographical regions. That unfortunately is something that can happen. That's sort of what we call split brain. And we do it happens very, very rarely. And we do have work in progress to try and make that impossible. But unfortunately, we aren't done yet. Aaron, were you going to say something here?
Well, I was just going to ask, for how long did that last?
Lasted for about an hour until we finally all got on the same page, and so we were starting to think we were maybe it was a DNS problem or something.
Yeah, no. Depending on your meeting name, now I have seen it where if you're using special characters, and some users use the lowercase version of a Unicode character or some other thing like that, then there actually will be different actual room names. But as long as you're confident that the room name was the same, that it's likely you hit a split brain, at which point that's of concern to me, because our split brain monitoring also attempts to fix the situation. And it sounds like you were in a situation wherein it was unfixable. And that is extremely rare in our scenarios, and probably means I need to look into it.
Can you
post
share,
onto the community forum the URL so that I can take a look later?
Or here in the chat, that would also work.
Excuse me, could you ask a question again?
The meeting links, could you please share them somewhere? You could share them on the community forum, or send them here as a private message to me.
Okay. Yeah, it was a very, very simple, let's see, about 10 letters, upper and lower case, simple words, no special symbols at all.
Right. No, but if you could share the exact name, we could try to scrape our logs to see for any bad events.
Right. Especially if you also can tell us around what time it was.
Okay.
That would be
all right.
helpful.
I'll try to pull that out and get it to you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. It was like we had a parallel universe going on.
Yeah,
that's exactly.
That has to do with the way that we're currently hosting with multiple Prosodies, all of which who could host the entirety of the service, but you were then redirected to several of them, or at least two of them. It sounds like.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Okay. Well, there aren't any more questions. I thank you all for joining our code today, and look forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks. Have a great week. Bye-bye.